The annual night of spooky fun is also the championship season for petty grievances. Just when you thought we'd scraped the bottom of the complaint barrel, a whole new level of absurdity clawed its way into the light. We're back with 55 more of the absolute dumbest Halloween complaints ever recorded. Stories that prove the real monsters aren't in the costumes. They're on the HOA board, in the neighbor's window, and ready to file a report about the wrong shade of your orange lights. 1. A parrot is at the center of this complaint. Its owner filed a grievance against a neighbor whose motion-activated zombie would groan, "Brains!" The issue was that the parrot learned to mimic the sound perfectly and would now shriek it at all hours. The owner complained the zombie had irrevocably corrupted her bird's vocabulary and demanded the homeowner pay for a professional avian behavioral specialist to unteach the undead phrase. How much should a homeowner be responsible for what the neighbor's parrot learns? 2. A man fully committed to his scarecrow costume by standing perfectly still on his lawn for hours. A neighbor called the police, not because she was scared, but because she was furious about the deception. She complained that he was posing as an inanimate object, and that his sudden movements to spook trick-or-treaters were a form of emotional whiplash. She argued he was blurring the line between decoration and performer in a way that was fundamentally dishonest to the neighborhood kids. 3. A teenager who was amazing at makeup made himself look like a terrifyingly realistic zombie. He was so convincing that a neighbor actually called the cops. After the police figured it out, the neighbor didn't apologize. Instead, she complained to the HOA that the costume was deceptively realistic and crossed the line from fun scary to a public nuisance. She seriously wanted a new rule that costumes shouldn't be allowed to be too good. 4. One resident became the self-appointed age police of trick-or-treating, posting a sign that read, "Ages 12 and under only." When a few 14-year-olds approached, he refused them candy and then went on a tirade on the neighborhood's social media page. He argued that teenage trick-or-treaters were exploiting a holiday meant for children and were engaging in a thinly veiled form of sugary extortion. He was genuinely trying to legislate the fun out of Halloween for anyone who had hit puberty. 5. A homeowner placed a few simple foam tombstones on their front lawn. The next morning, their lawn-obsessed neighbor came over, pointing with a look of sheer panic. "You have to move this one," he said, pointing to a tombstone that read, "Rest in peace." The problem? It was placed directly over one of his pop-up sprinkler heads. He wasn't worried about it breaking. He was furious that when his automated system turned on at 4 a.m., the tombstone would block the water, creating a catastrophic dry patch and ruining his lawn's hydration uniformity. 6. A parent was absolutely livid after discovering their child had been given a caramel apple. The complaint wasn't about the sugar, a potential choking hazard, or the sticky mess. It was about the aftermath. Their child, with caramel-coated fingers, had touched the pristine leather seats of their brand-new luxury SUV. They marched back to the house the next day, not with a simple complaint, but with a demand. They insisted the homeowner pay for a professional interior detailing service to remove what they described, with a straight face, as high-viscosity confectionery residue from their vehicle. 7. The constant low hum of a giant inflatable Frankenstein's monster on a neighbor's lawn was the source of one complaint. The neighbor, who worked from home as a podcaster, claimed the low-frequency electrical drone from the air pump was being picked up by his sensitive microphone. He sent an email with an attached audio file as proof, stating that the monster's life support was contaminating his audio recordings and making him sound like he was broadcasting from inside a factory. 8. A guy wearing fake vampire fangs was giving out candy. He had a slight lisp because of them, which he thought was funny. A neighbor, however, complained that his speech was unintelligible. She claimed that when he tried to say Happy Halloween, it was setting a poor example of elocution for the children. She was genuinely annoyed that a man pretending to be a blood-sucking creature of the night wasn't speaking with perfect diction. 9. A homeowner found a genuinely creepy-looking antique porcelain doll at a flea market and decided to make it the centerpiece of their spooky porch display. Their neighbor, who practiced New Age healing, became convinced the doll was possessed by a malevolent spirit. She didn't complain that it was scary. She complained that its negative psychic aura was interfering with her Wi-Fi signal. She claimed the spectral energy radiating from the object was creating an ethereal disturbance that caused her internet to buffer during her Zoom yoga classes. 10. After a light rain, a homeowner's mummy decoration, which was just a dummy wrapped in toilet paper, got soggy and started to fall apart. Small, mushy bits of paper washed down the driveway and onto the neighbor's property. The neighbor didn't just ask them to clean it up. He threatened to sue for unauthorized discharge of processed pulp material and property contamination. He treated the soggy decoration like it was an industrial waste spill. 11. A homeowner put a life-sized witch decoration on his roof. His neighbor, who had just installed expensive solar panels, came over to complain. The witch's shadow was apparently falling across one of his panels for about an hour every afternoon. He sent a formal letter demanding the witch be moved, claiming it was obstructing his access to renewable solar energy and literally costing him money. He was furious about a witch causing his own personal energy crisis. 12. Trying to be tech-savvy, a homeowner put a QR code on a sign that linked to a spooky video they made. This did not sit well with the anti-screen time parent next door. She complained that they were hijacking a wholesome outdoor activity and forcing technology on children. She argued that Halloween night should be a screen-free sanctuary and that their QR code was an unsolicited invitation to digital distraction. Has your phone ever ruined a perfectly good holiday? 13. One family set up a cute display of skeletons having a tea party on their lawn. Their neighbor complained that it was deeply disrespectful. Not to the dead, but to the skeletons themselves. They argued that skeletons are supposed to be scary, and posing them in a cutesy domestic scene was an insult to their intended macabre purpose. They were basically gatekeeping how plastic skeletons should be allowed to behave. Is it actually possible to offend a plastic skeleton? Let me know your thoughts. 14. A guy was playing classic spooky organ music through a small speaker on his porch. His neighbor, who claimed to be a music producer, filed a noise complaint. The issue wasn't the volume. He claimed the music was compositionally lazy and harmonically uninspired. He called it bottom-tier horror music and said the simple, repetitive melody was more annoying than scary, causing him artistic distress. 15. After Halloween, a homeowner tossed his old jack-o'-lantern into the woods. His neighbor filed an official environmental complaint. He wasn't mad about the littering. He claimed the seeds could sprout, creating an invasive pumpkin patch that would choke out native plants and destroy the local ecosystem. He was treating a single holiday leftover like it was an ecological time bomb. 16. A homeowner put a large 10-foot-tall inflatable black cat on their lawn. Their neighbor, who was trying to sell his house, was furious. He claimed the menacing and cartoonishly large feline was visible in the background of his online real estate listing photos, and it was scaring off potential buyers. He demanded they deflate the cat during daylight hours, accusing it of actively damaging his property value and sabotaging his digital curb appeal with its spooky presence. 17. Someone decorated their bushes with those classic, stretchy fake spider webs. A few days later, their neighbor complained that the fake webs were attracting and trapping real spiders. He claimed the decoration was acting as bait for the local arachnid population, creating a hyper-concentrated spider nest right next to his property. He wasn't scared of them. He was just furious that their fake spiders were luring in real ones. Have you ever had a Halloween decoration backfire that perfectly? 18. A homeowner used a projector to make a ghost appear in an upstairs window. It was a pretty cool effect. The complaint came from the neighbor across the street, who claimed the projection was emotionally confusing her cat. She insisted that her cat would sit on the windowsill, stare at the ghost, and become visibly agitated by the sight of a spectre that had no scent. She demanded they stop the show for the sake of her cat's mental health. 19. A mother was furious after inspecting her son's Halloween profits. One house had given out cheap, off-brand candy, the kind of stuff you've never heard of. She marched back the next day to confront the homeowner. Her complaint wasn't about health, it was about economics. She accused them of devaluing the labor of trick-or-treating and claimed her son's costume and walking efforts deserved premium name-brand compensation. She then tried to hand the cheap candy back, calling it an insulting payment for services rendered. 20. A homeowner hung a large fake bat from a tree branch in their front yard. The neighbor's complaint to the HOA was incredibly specific. The bat, whenever it swayed in the wind, would momentarily block the view of his camera. He submitted video clips showing the bat's wing obstructing his surveillance capabilities for seconds at a time. He demanded the airborne menace be moved so his camera could have a clear, uninterrupted view of the street at all times. 21. Putting a pumpkin spice air freshener on the porch seemed festive, but one homeowner's neighbor saw it as an act of war. A formal complaint was filed with the HOA for olfactory aggression. The neighbor claimed the scent was so overpowering it was seeping through their closed windows, causing migraines and making their own home smell like a corporate coffee shop fever dream. They demanded the homeowner cease and desist all aggressive scent-based holiday marketing. 22. One house set up a motion-activated zombie that would lurch out from behind a tombstone with a loud groan. Their neighbor, a fitness-obsessed guy who tracked his every move, was furious. He wasn't mad about being scared. He was mad because the zombie jumped out at him while he was on his evening power walk, and he claimed the shock unnecessarily spiked his cortisol levels. He even showed them his fitness app's heart rate chart as proof of the unsolicited biostress event, and demanded they turn it off because it was disrupting his carefully managed hormonal balance. 23. One family set their smart doorbell to play a loud witch cackle. The problem? Their next-door neighbor's smart home speaker kept misinterpreting the sound. Every time a kid rang the bell, the neighbor's device would announce, "Okay, playing Wicked Witchy Woman on Spotify." The neighbor filed a complaint, not about the noise, but about inter-device interference, claiming the doorbell was digitally harassing their smart home ecosystem. 24. A homeowner in Vermont let a prize-winning giant pumpkin decompose on the porch. A neighbor, a self-proclaimed gourd enthusiast, reported them to the health department for improper and negligent gourd decomposition. He wasn't worried about the smell. He was concerned the specific strain of mold was not native to the region. He claimed it could cross-pollinate with other squashes, creating a Frankenstein's monster of inedible autumn vegetables. He was dead serious about preventing a mutant gourd apocalypse. 25. Trying to be safe and fun, a homeowner built a long PVC pipe chute to slide candy down to trick-or-treaters. It was a huge hit, except with his neighbor, a retired engineer. The man came over with a clipboard, complaining that the chute's angle was too steep. He claimed this created excessive candy velocity, turning miniature chocolate bars into dangerous projectiles. He demanded they redesign the chute to meet his personal imaginary safety standards. 26. Most complaints are about decorations being too scary. This one is the exact opposite. A horror movie buff was furious with his neighbor's completely kid-friendly display of smiling ghosts and happy pumpkins. He confronted them, complaining that their aggressively cheerful decorations were ruining the spooky atmosphere of the block. He unironically accused them of seasonal cowardice and demanded they add at least one element of genuine terror to respect the true spirit of Halloween. 27. A licensed mortician took personal offense to his neighbor's Halloween display. The scene included a plastic skeleton sloppily placed inside a cheap, store-bought coffin. The Mortician left a formal typed letter on their door. The complaint detailed how the skeleton's posture demonstrated a shocking disregard for proper funerary presentation, and called the flimsy coffin an insult to the entire death care industry. He then offered his professional services to properly and respectfully repose the deceased for a more authentic scene. 28. Leave it to an HOA to find a problem after the party's over. One homeowner received a violation notice on November 1st for non-uniform post-holiday lawn debris. The problem? The colorful candy wrappers dropped by trick-or-treaters. The letter stated that the bright oranges, yellows, and blues of the wrappers clashed with the neighborhood's approved earth tone aesthetic and demanded the visual pollution be cleaned up immediately to restore order. 29. A family was giving out a very popular brand of chocolate bars. The next day, a dad from down the street came to their door. He had researched the candy company and discovered it was owned by a larger corporation he didn't like. He accused them of supporting a morally questionable conglomerate and handed them a printed list of ethically sourced, independently owned candy alternatives they should use next year. He was trying to turn trick-or-treating into a political protest. 30. Imagine getting a 1-star review for your Halloween performance. The morning after, one homeowner found a printed note taped to their door, formatted like a scathing Yelp review. It gave them 1 star for slow service, citing a 30-second wait time at the door. It criticized the subpar product, calling their candy selection uninspired. But the best part was the final line. Overall, a disappointing experience for my client. We will not be returning next year. The client, of course, was their 8-year-old son. 31. The font choice on a fake tombstone was the subject of one formal, typed complaint. A homeowner, who was a professional graphic designer, wrote to his neighbor that their use of the Comic Sans font for the epitaph was an aesthetic crime of the highest order. He argued that the playful, childish font completely undermined the intended spooky mood and made the entire neighborhood look amateurish and unsophisticated. He even attached a list of thematically appropriate serifed fonts they could use next year. 32. A homeowner was decorating their porch and a bottle of fake blood tipped over, splattering a few drops onto their neighbor's pristine white picket fence. The neighbor didn't just ask them to clean it. He came out, took photos from multiple angles, and then confronted them, holding up his phone. "I'm documenting this," he said sternly. "You have created what legally constitutes a biohazard scene on my property. I want it professionally remediated, not just wiped down." He was treating a few drops of corn syrup and red dye like a forensic investigation. 33. A homeowner hung a simple ghost decoration, just a white sheet, from a large oak tree. The next day, their neighbor from across the street came over, visibly upset. He accused them of targeted harassment. His reasoning? He believed the ghost was positioned to stare directly into his messy garage, and he saw it as a passive-aggressive commentary on his failure to clean it out. He saw the friendly ghost not as a decoration, but as a judgmental spectre of his own procrastination. 34. A family received a violation notice from their HOA, not for the ghoulish skeleton hanging from their porch, but for the single nail holding it up. The letter, complete with a highlighted photo of the offending nail, solemnly stated that any penetration of the home's exterior facade, no matter how small, constituted an unauthorized structural alteration. They were given 24 hours to remove the skeleton, spackle the hole, and rehang it using only board-approved, non-damaging adhesive hooks. The HOA wasn't haunted by the skeleton. They were haunted by the thought of a tiny, unsanctioned hole. 35. A homeowner set up a classic scene with skeletons digging their way out of the front lawn. The complaint came from their neighbor, an amateur astronomer. The issue wasn't the theme, it was the lighting. He filed a complaint with code enforcement that one of the spotlights was aimed slightly upward, creating excessive and celebratory light pollution. He claimed the glare was obstructing his view of the Andromeda Galaxy from his backyard telescope and was a violation of his celestial viewing rights. 36. After a family put up a large howling werewolf statue, their neighbor filed a complaint with a local animal rights group. Her reasoning was that the decoration was culturally insensitive to her dog, which was a husky Siberian wolf mix. She claimed the scary, monstrous depiction of a wolf was a harmful stereotype that could cause her dog emotional distress and a deep-seated identity crisis. 37. A family was proudly using a fog machine to make their yard look like a spooky graveyard. Their health-obsessed neighbor marched over, not to complain about the smell or the sight, but about the type of fog. He lectured them for using a standard chemical-based fog liquid. He insisted they should have bought a more expensive, non-toxic, organic, water-based haze and accused them of polluting the neighborhood air with low-quality atmospheric effects. 38. The constant, high-pitched cackle of a motion-activated witch drove one neighbor to the brink of passive-aggressive madness. They didn't confront the owner directly. Instead, they slid a neatly folded note under their door that read, "I'm so glad you're enjoying your new witch decoration. Her laugh is so consistent." As a friendly reminder, some of us have to work in the morning. Just a thought. The sheer politeness of the note somehow made it 1,000 times more infuriating. 39. One house had those little battery-powered flickering LED candles inside all their jack-o'-lanterns. You'd think their safety-conscious neighbor would approve. You'd be wrong. He complained that by using fake candles, they were robbing the children of an authentic Halloween experience. He argued that the faint smell of burning pumpkin and the subtle, delicious thrill of a potential fire hazard were essential parts of the holiday's tradition, and their safe alternative was just plain boring. 40. Apparently, there's a right and a wrong time to ask for candy. A man called the police non-emergency line at 5:05 p.m. on Halloween to report that trick-or-treaters had started unacceptably early. He claimed that authentic Halloween activities should not begin until full sundown, and these early kids were violating the unwritten social contract of the twilight hour. He genuinely asked if a patrol car could be sent to inform the children to go home and come back at a more appropriate time. What do you think is the official, undeniable start time for trick-or-treating? 41. A man dressed as a generic medieval knight, complete with a plastic sword. His neighbor, a history professor, sent a condescending email complaining the costume was a historical travesty. He pointed out the helmet was 14th century style while the shield was a 12th century Norman design. He called it a chronologically confused mess that was perpetuating damaging stereotypes of post-Carolingian military attire. What's the most ridiculously specific complaint you've ever heard? 42. To be creative, a family decided to wrap all their giveaway candy in custom spooky paper, hiding what was inside. This led to a complaint from a mom who was furious about the surprise element. "How am I supposed to screen this for my child's gluten-free, nut-free, dye-free, high-fructose corn syrup-free diet?" she demanded. "You've rendered this candy forensically unidentifiable. This isn't a treat, it's a mystery box of potential allergens." 43. A guy dressed up his adorable corgi in one of those hot dog bun costumes. It was a huge hit with the kids, but not with his neighbor, who was a professional dog trainer. She sent him a long text message explaining that dressing a dog as a food item was psychologically damaging. She claimed it could confuse the dog about its role in the pack hierarchy and lead to a deeply rooted identity crisis. She was worried about a dog having an existential crisis over a costume. 44. One house used a projector to create an image of a creepy clown waving from their window. The neighbor across the street complained to the city that the projection was a traffic hazard. He claimed that the sudden and unsolicited appearance of a spectral clown was so startling that it could cause drivers on the street to swerve. He was literally arguing that a fake clown projection was a bigger threat to public safety than texting and driving. 45. A homeowner put a classic fake severed arm in a bush, thinking it was a solid scare. But their neighbor, who apparently overthinks everything, came over to complain. His issue? It was a left arm. He launched into a bizarre lecture explaining that since most people are right-handed, seeing a severed right arm would be far more shocking and effective. He accused them of weakening the overall horror of their display and insisted that for maximum impact, they needed to use the correct limb. 46. A homeowner got creative and changed their home's Wi-Fi network name to the Silence of the Lands for the month of October. The complaint came from their neighbor, who was furious that the threatening and creepy name kept popping up on their family's devices. They claimed it was creating a hostile digital environment and causing unnecessary anxiety every time their kids tried to connect their tablets to the internet. They seriously demanded the homeowner change their network name to something less psychologically damaging. 47. A family put up 3 large inflatable Halloween decorations. Their neighbor, an accountant, apparently calculated the decoration's energy use. He submitted a formal HOA complaint, not about the noise or appearance, but about the flagrant and unnecessary electricity draw. He included a spreadsheet estimating the monthly cost and argued that this frivolous energy expenditure during a time of global climate change was morally and fiscally irresponsible. He was literally auditing his neighbor's Halloween spirit. 48. One family's jack-o'-lantern was the problem, but not because it was scary. It was the opposite. They carved a pumpkin with a big, goofy, smiling face. Their teenage neighbor, who was way too serious about horror, came over to complain. "That's not a jack-o'-lantern," he scoffed. "That's just a smiling vegetable. You're disrespecting the entire art form and ruining the vibe for the whole street." He then offered to fix it for them by making it look more menacing. 49. A homeowner was playing a sound loop of rattling chains and creaking doors on a small speaker. The neighbor, who had just installed a brand new smart security system, was furious. The spooky sounds were constantly triggering his system's unusual noise sensors, sending him dozens of false alarm notifications. "Your festive ambiance," he wrote in a text, "is causing me significant digital anxiety and draining my phone battery. Please cease the haunting immediately." 50. A family left a giant bowl of candy on the porch with a "Take One" sign. The next day, an anonymous, laminated letter appeared from a neighbor, a registered nurse. She had apparently been watching from her window. The letter called the communal bowl a bacterial free-for-all. She demanded all future candy be presented in a way that prevents inter-family germ transmission. How do you feel about the communal candy bowl? Is it a cherished tradition or a public health crisis? 51. A sweet elderly woman handed out homemade caramel popcorn balls. The next day, a mother confronted her, holding the treat in a baggie like evidence. She wasn't worried about poison. She was furious that providing an unlabeled, non-FDA-approved homemade food item was wildly irresponsible. The reason? She had no way of scanning its barcode into her calorie-counting app for her child. 52. One teenager's massive inflatable T-Rex costume became the subject of a formal HOA complaint. A neighbor, who took sidewalk etiquette very seriously, filed a report claiming the costume was a public right-of-way obstruction. They meticulously detailed how the dinosaur's wide, swishing tail created a navigational impediment, blocking over half the sidewalk and forcing other, smaller trick-or-treaters to dangerously step onto the street to get around. They were, in essence, trying to issue a traffic citation to a 14-year-old dressed as a prehistoric reptile. 53. A homeowner, feeling festive, posted a happy group photo of trick-or-treaters on their porch to the neighborhood Facebook page. This was a grave mistake. One mother zoomed in, saw the picture, and was horrified. Her complaint wasn't about privacy or safety. It was because the photo had been snapped mid-blink, making her child look, in her words, unflattering and, frankly, a little dopey. She sent a series of increasingly frantic messages demanding the photographically compromising image be taken down immediately because it failed to accurately represent her child's festive spirit and photogenic potential. 54. Seeing a child's small pumpkin bucket was overflowing, a kind homeowner offered them an extra plastic grocery bag to help carry their haul. The next day, the child's eco-conscious parent came to their door. They weren't there to say thank you. They were there to lecture. They were furious for being handed a single-use plastic item, launching into an unsolicited speech about ocean pollution and accusing the homeowner of undermining their family's deeply held commitment to a zero-waste lifestyle with what was meant to be a simple act of kindness. 55. A man called the non-emergency police line with a complaint of such magnificent pettiness it deserves an award. He was deeply concerned by the aggressive and overly enthusiastic manner in which children were ringing his doorbell. He wasn't mad about the noise. He claimed they were jabbing the button with excessive force, and he had calculated that this cumulative stress from dozens of sugary fingers would cause premature wear and tear on the doorbell's internal spring mechanism. He was genuinely asking the police to intervene over potential future repair costs for his doorbell button. So there you have it. 55 more exhibits that prove the scariest thing on Halloween isn't a monster. It's a neighbor with a notepad and a grudge. But now I have to ask for your honest opinion. Out of all these complaints, which one do you think was actually justified and doesn't belong in this video? I'm genuinely curious to see which point you'll defend in the comments. If witnessing this level of human absurdity is your kind of therapy, destroy that like button and subscribe for more.